If you'd like to be able to listen to the show without ads and have full access to bonus content, that's an option. To find out how, please go to dogmanencounters.com/podcast. Hey everyone, thanks so much for joining us for another live stream episode of Dogman Encounters Radio. Really appreciate you listening. Tonight's guest says that as long as he can remember, he's had paranormal experiences, and most of the paranormal entities and beings that he's experienced encounters with, unfortunately, it seemed like they were doing all they could to just mortify him to within an inch of his life. Can you imagine? I mean, being a kid is difficult enough. Imagine having to deal with that as well. Yeah, I'd rather not even imagine that. Well, nonetheless, without any further ado, let's bring him in here now. Patrick, thanks so much for joining us.
Hey there, Vic. Hey there, dog family. How's everybody doing?
Well, just so you know, they're not a dog family. They're dog maniacs.
There you go. There you go.
Yeah. Please give us a brief bio on yourself, Patrick.
Sure. My name is Patrick. I'm from New York. Was born and raised there. I've lived most of my life now in Texas. I'm glad to be here. 39. I've got 3 kids of my own. And between my wife, we've helped raise 4 or 5 other kids into productive, young adults. And just live out here in Wiley, Texas, and trying to enjoy life as much as we can, and amongst all the stress that we all have to deal with.
Yeah, it's unfortunate you have to deal with all that stress. And like I touched on just a moment ago, in addition to all the stress that normal life tends to bring you, you have to deal with the stress that having all these other experiences with the paranormal and the dogmen brings to your life. It just isn't fair, is it?
No, but that's almost sometimes the way life can be. Sometimes that's almost like the easy part. But and learning how to function and still do our daily routine and be a parent and effective is can pose a difficulty at times.
Oh, yeah, definitely can. But the fact you're still going and doing what you need to do, that says a lot about your character, because a lot of people wouldn't be able to continue on and everything the way you have. So I'm impressed. Now, just a moment ago there, Patrick, I touched on the fact that you've had all these experiences with the paranormal for, I guess, stretching back as long as you can remember. What was the earliest paranormal experience that you can remember having?
Well, the earliest paranormal experience I can remember having would be from the day that my grandfather passed away. Well, I was with him when he died, but a couple weeks later, my grandmother, she doing laundry, and she comes and sees me at the back porch, and she asked me who I was talking to, and I was talking to my grandfather. And I didn't know it at the time, but I was talking to his spirit at the time. But and shortly after my experience with him left me, I guess, that's when I started having to deal with all the other things that decided to come into my life and show themselves to me.
Well, like I told you, I'm so sorry you have to deal with those things that unfortunately decided to come into your life. It just isn't fair, like I said. Now, you describe yourself as being a sensitive. Do you see it as being a curse that you're sensitive to paranormal things, or do you see it as being a good thing?
Well, I see it to be a good thing overall. I mean, it helps you, when it comes to judgment of character of other people. Like, you can just sense and immediately people's intentions, and also it helps when I'm trying to help people. Like when I know that they're going through something, and I've helped complete strangers that are going through terrible crisis, and that you would have no clue on the surface that they're having such terrible issues, and you can just kind of feel it, and it's led me to all kinds of places, just kind of feeling where I'm supposed to be, and I've done some really good things for people, and some of which my kids were there to witness, like helping this girl who was had attempted kidnapping, and got her away from this person and got her back home. So I always say, just kind of go with your gut, and just it'll tell you where you should be, and sometimes you think you're going down to the wrong place, but it turns out to be the right place at the right time. And even if it's not convenient for me, um, I'm in the right place to help somebody.
You're a good man for helping all these people. Yeah, that's a lot about your character, and of course, I'm impressed. Now, considering the fact you've had all these paranormal experiences, I'd be kind of remiss if I didn't ask you, at any time in your life, have you ever played with a Ouija board?
No, never. I will never mess with anything like that. I don't want nothing to do with it. I don't want to play with any of the dark arts. I mean, whether they're, I mean, I couldn't tell you if they're real or not, but I just, I'd rather just not mess with it. And for a period of time, actually, when I was really going through like the spiritual awakening, I was looking into spiritual warfare, and I had a female dog, this little Rottie, that I had rescued probably like a month prior. And the day after I gave my testimony and I was saved, and where you put that, um, basically whose side you stand on, God or the others. And the very next day, she was struck and killed. Uh, and it felt like it was almost like a message. But yeah, no, it's being sensitive is, it can be very helpful for others, and but it kind of keeps you in, I guess, I don't know, always aware of things going on around you.
Yeah, as you know, a lot of things are going on around us in day to day life that most people don't even know about. So, yeah, maybe that is an advantage, the fact that you know about them. But I guess it can also be in some ways a curse, or at least seem to be that way. So,
Especially when they know that you know about them. That's when things can get bad.
well, I believe it. And of course, I'm so sorry to hear about you losing your dog like that. That's awful.
Yeah, yeah. It was really sad. I came home from work and didn't even go in the house. I just went straight, picked her up, and I buried her in the yard. It was night and it was cold and raining, and I didn't go inside the house until she was put to rest. That was years ago. That wasn't my dog Bella, but yeah, no, like I said, sometimes when things know that you're aware, they try and make their presence all that more into your life too.
Yeah, like I said, that's just not fair. And wow, I'm so sorry that happened. I really am. Well, Patrick, you've got a lot to share with us tonight. So please tell us all about your encounters now. Give us every last detail that comes to mind.
You got it. So the very first time I ever encountered anything, it was after my grandfather passed away, and I spoken with him. Um, and on that note, strangely enough, my aunt, when I was on my 18th birthday, I was on the phone with her really late one night, and she had told me, she asked me if I remembered that day that my grandfather died, because I lived with him when I was little, and I only remember trying to wake him up, but she said, "Do you remember what you said to me that day?" I was like, "No," and she filled me in that I I basically told her what that grandpa was gonna, I guess, pass away or die. I don't know what words it was put in, but she said that she had gotten the feeling that I told her that he was gonna pass, and but everything was gonna be okay. Um, that sounds very strange, and again, I had no clue. I found this out on my 18th birthday, but shortly after my grandfather passed, I was a very sad and lonely little boy, and I was crushed. He was like my first dad. Um, and I remember one night, it was like about 4, and my very first dream, my first nightmare, I was running I was running across these wooden floor, and I can remember seeing my little feet thudding across the floor, and to the right of me, there's this window, and it's open, and it has this white frame around the window, and it has this very thin see-through, very ornate curtains, and they're billowing in the wind. There was a storm going on outside, and it was raining and thundering and lightning, and to the left of me was these iron frame beds with these white linens, and behind me I'm running from this monster, and I remember looking over my shoulder and seeing big red glowing eyes, like the coal embers, and is glaring at me, and I'm just running as hard as I can, and it's just like window, 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 bed, 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 and I can just hear my feet thudding across the floor. And every time I look back to see if I'm getting, ahead of this thing, it kept on gaining ground, and it would start snapping at me. And that's the first time I ever seen something as terrifying as that. And it had a muzzle and a mouthful of teeth, and it was dark. I couldn't really see its body shape, but I can see the head. Every time I look back, it'd snap at me, and it felt like I was never gonna get to the end of the hall, into the hall. And um, I had woken up to that, and I woke up in tears. And I mean, how do you describe that to somebody when you're that age? Um, you really can't. And so, reflecting upon that, I think it's strange to say, but I don't know how we know these things when we're so young, and to see things that we've never seen before, that we know of, anyways. But I grew up in a trailer, and I don't ever recall. And my memory is very clear, vivid, even when I was 2, I can remember. So I don't ever recall being on wooden floors like that. Not like those hollow wooden floors, like when you're walking around upstairs in an old wooden house, or seeing bed frames or windows sills like that. Um, I think reflecting on it, I think what that was is a metaphor of an orphanage. My mom, she couldn't take care of me when she was little, and she was going to give me up. And I don't hold any resentment for it. She had already lost custody of my sister at the time, and I think that might have been an orphanage. And I'm not sure what the Dogman thing, werewolf or whatever, represented, but I just know it was terrifying, and it was chasing me. And yeah, so that was my first time experiencing that. And more paranormal stuff came after that, but we're gonna stick to the Dogman stuff. Um, but so growing up, being sensitive to things, you always kind of feel things when they're around. Um, Now, at first, probably starting like 4.5, 5 years ago, I started getting into podcasts, and I was a cook at the time, and I just I don't really care for the radio too much, and I was tired of listening to the Cowboys, and because that's too emotional, too stressful. And so I started listening to stuff about Bigfoot and whatnot, and I was listening to Sasquatch Chronicles, and I was just obsessed listening to it. And I came across an episode where it was a what is it? I'm sorry, what is that? What was it, like a wildlife biologist encounters Dogman, and that was new to me. And so I listened to it, and he described how this predator was stalking his land. Like, he couldn't quite see it; you can just see it in the underbrush, and somehow it moved all the way across to in front of him to where it was about 30 feet, and it stood up, and it looked like it was going to charge, and he fired 3 rounds into it of a 45, and it took the shots, and eventually took off. And that was the first time I ever heard of a Dogman. And so I started looking up Dogman, and I came across your show, Vic. And the first few episodes I listened to, I really honestly I thought it was fake. I thought it was like just entertainment and people reading off scripts. Because there's no way that something like that could be real. I mean, to wrap your mind around something like that, I mean, Bigfoot, sure, humanoid ape thing, you know, I guess that kind of makes more sense. And plus, we've been hearing about it for a lot longer. And Dogman was this whole new phenomenon. And so I started listening to a few of the episodes. And again, like I said, I thought it was fake. And the more and more I listened, the more I mean, you can tell when people are being truthful. You can hear the emotion in their voice, and you can hear the fear. And I was just, I became engulfed into that. And I'd listen to it on the way to work. I have it in my, ear pods, while I'm at work, and I listen to it on the way home. I listen to it when I go to bed. And I remember I even was like, just like a lot of people, wanting to see one. And I remember I had messaged Vic on Facebook and was talking about wanting to see one, and he was like, "No, you really don't. Searching those guys out aren't isn't it's not all cracked up, and it's not a great experience." And well, I discovered that he was right. Um, now, and this is probably about maybe a year or so, maybe year give or take, listening to these episodes. Um, I remember it was probably, was it 2022, I think, or 2023? I'm not sure, but I found a kayak, and I was going to go kayaking down this creek right here. It's called Rowlett Creek. It's located here in Texas by in between Garland and Saxe and Wiley. It has a whole green belt right there, and the creek's very nice. I go fishing there. I went fishing there all the time, and I'd take my dog Bella everywhere I went. She went. So I was gonna go kayaking, and it's relatively shallow in some spots, and there's, you know, it wouldn't matter where I'd go. She'd try to follow me anyway, so I took her with me. Um, I had a bit too much stuff with me at the time, just big old bag that was kind of, just trial and error. And well, I'm going down the creek, and it's right there, probably like 400 to 500 yards past what is called the Garland Gun Range. So you can look it up on a map, and look at the satellite view. You can see the creek right there past the gun range, and then there's these pipes that go across the creek. And there was a buildup of logs there, and so I couldn't just freely, go with my kayak. And Bella, she's trotting right alongside me. I'm not going very fast. I mean, anyone who's been kayaking, you're not speeding through the water or anything. So she was just right there along my left hand side, my left flank. And so I stopped there, and I was gonna pull my kayak over some of the debris there and keep on going. Well, at that time, as I just gotten over the debris, I didn't pull my kayak over there just yet. I was just checking out, the ground and make sure that it's navigable, and give Bella a break. And I heard a growl, and I not only did I hear it, but I felt it. It was like a rumbling, it was very quick, only maybe two seconds, give or take. And I felt it in my chest. Now, I'm in the creek bottom, and each side is probably about, give or take, 20-25 feet up to ground level. And I wasn't sure which direction it came from. And now I know that I've seen bobcat, and I've seen a mountain lion. I've got video footage of a mountain lion coming across this burnt bridge one day when me and Bella were going to go fishing. And so I knew there was a big cat in the area, but I just wanted to go investigate anyways. And so I climb up there on the left hand side, the side closest to me, and I looked around for about 5-10 minutes, and Bella sniffed and didn't really get anything. So I decided that perhaps maybe I should just sit right there and just fish for a little while, because there's a good fishing hole that's right there. I've seen these guys pull up a bunch of catfish from there. So I decided to do that. I was fishing there, I don't know, 15 minutes or so after this all had already happened. And my kayak's kind of like pulled up there on the shore. And Bella, she starts to growl. Now I'm reeling in a line. And Bella, I hear her, she's on my right hand side sitting, and she looks up across to the left to our 10 o'clock. And she's growling. She's got a low growl. Now Bella, she never really barked. She wasn't loud or anything like that. She's the type of dog that you'll find out there's a dog in the house once you get through the door, and then you'll be, probably wishing you never came in. So she had this low growl, and her hackles were raised. And I'm looking up there, and I don't see anything. So I'm like, well, maybe that cat, this is around somewhere. As again, I saw this when I saw this cougar, it was during the daytime, and typically they usually do their thing, during the night. But I thought maybe it was that guy, because it was a young adolescent, and but I'm still looking, nothing, and I can hear her just growing in intensity, and I tell her to knock it off, to quit, and she sits and she quiets down and settles down, but she's still got her eyes glued. And I look up there, and now across from me, diagonally again to my 10 o'clock position, up there on ground level, probably again about 25 to 30 feet up, and this creek is maybe 25 feet across. So maybe 60-ish feet directly in my line of sight. I saw black, this back of something, and you can see the shoulder blades just lifting as it moves, and I see the head of the front shoulder blades, and then it steps out. And
Oh no! Can you hear me, Patrick? If you can, you're breaking up.
Yeah, I can hear you fine.
You're in the same spot. You're parked in the same spot we began this in. Is that right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
That's strange. Well, you're better now. So sorry. I apologize about interrupting. Please continue, and hopefully the signal will cooperate.
You got it. So where did I leave off? I saw this black-haired creature, and I saw its shoulder blades walking, and into the clearing was this large dog figure. I saw its head. Its head was lowered down towards the ground. It wasn't quite looking at me. Its head was moving side to side, but it was massive. It was really huge. I'd have to say, to its shoulder blade, had been almost 5 feet. I mean, and that's massive. And from the base of the neck to the hind quarters, I'm guessing was maybe 6.5, 7 feet. But then it had probably like a 3-foot long tail, and its front legs were longer than the back, and it had a really big head. I mean, the body was huge. It was very thick, and it reaches with its left leg and paw, hand, whatever. I mean, I wasn't expecting that, but it grabbed a hold of this tree and it stood itself up, and it faced me directly. And it didn't have that much fur on the bottom, on the chest and the underside. It was kind of like a grayish, like a dark grayish colored skin. It looked like it had like almost a combination of a rib cage, like a dog has, like it's kind of curved, but also had pecs like a human being, and you can see the muscles beneath the fur. Now the fur itself was this glossy black, and looked very clean. Probably like 3.5, 4 inches long over the entire body, except around the neck area. It seemed to have almost like a mane, or it's thicker. And it was like this beautiful jet black, shiny, and it looked like a dog had just had a bath, almost very clean, and these bright yellow eyes, like the size of lemons. And it why what confused me is the fact that it showed itself to me, and I don't understand why. It wasn't aggressive. Uh, it didn't growl or didn't make any noise, except that it did yawn, kind of like a dog does, like when it stretches. It put its arm up onto the tree, and it kind of looked like it was stretching its back some, and it opened its mouth and it yawned, and it turned its mouth towards me as it was yawning, and it looked like it had like nothing but canines in its whole mouth. Its tongue was kind of hanging out lazily like a dog, but it was just sitting there staring. And Bella, she was not happy about it. She had a low growl in her throat, and I was startled. I'm still sitting there reeling in a pole, and I guess my hook had gotten caught up on something, and I'm standing there wearing these stupid Crocs on wet clay, and there's no grip, and I wound up slipping, and I fall right on my butt, and it snapped its head right back to me, and it just stared through me. Now I got a sense that it wasn't there to hurt me, but there was definitely that feeling that like basically to not test it. I mean, because I'll find out if it would kind of. Um, I, I didn't know what to say. Bella, she was growling, and it would glare at her, and she didn't whine. Sometimes I've heard where the dogs seem to get scared or kind of like passive, like become passive to it, and but she didn't do any of that. She looked like she was ready for a fight. Um, you can tell that she was wanting to spring, but she listened to me very well, and she wouldn't leave my side. And I know she'd fight to the death for me, of course. And we've had run-ins with coyotes before, where me and her both had to dispatch coyotes. Um, but she obviously was not. She wasn't impressed. I'm guessing. I don't know, but I was blown away, and that happened. It took maybe 3 minutes, 3 to 4 minutes, I guess, give or take, for that encounter, which is relatively long from what it sounds like. And it just sauntered away. It turned and walked off. Now, what's terrifying is, like, after that, I become very hyper vigilant, um, because, like, one, there was a woman that, like, that the year before, there's a woman that had went missing down there, and a fisherman, I believe it was probably during the sand bass run, February, March, they had found a a limb, and she was identified by DNA, and there wasn't a complete skeleton. It was just a part, or did it have anything to do with it? I don't know. Um, what it was doing there, I don't know either. At the time, I was very much into. I really want to see a dog man. Like, I would talk about it with some people and message, um, and I really wanted to go see these things. And the fact that that was benign, I couldn't imagine if it was in a threatening posture, and that would be more than terrifying. People would talk about that primal fear. Like, I was pretty scared. Um, of course, after it walked away, about 10, 15 minutes, I wanted to get up and go walk across that pipe across the creek and go look. But I knew Bella would follow me, and if I didn't find it, I knew she would, and I would not want her to fight this thing. This thing was massive. From when it's where it stood, its head had to reach close to 11 feet. Its body was very thick legs, and it looked like the size of a small horse, like a what they call like an Arabian. They're like the smaller of the horses, but that's still like good 800 pounds, 900 pounds, something like that. It was big. Like, its head was like the size of, like, almost like a horse head. It was massive, and those bright yellow eyes just really stuck with me. So about almost 2 years later, last year, Bella, she had passed. She had gotten old, and her decline was just happened so fast. Like, she looked still very healthy at 12, 13 years old. But she started getting this lump on her side there, and her decline was very, very rapid within months. She was so stiff she couldn't hardly move. And I wish I was in a better position to be able to afford proper veterinary care. And I'll always be angry at myself for her having to suffer like she did. And one night I want to say it was September, I think, she had passed last year, and I had taken her to this field, where we walk the dogs, constantly. And this is like one of the last places she had walked, in the free wild, I guess. Um, this peaceful, and I just love taking my dogs for hikes out there in the fields and the woods. And so that's where I buried her. And where I live and where she's buried is maybe about a mile and a half, 2 miles from my house. And my house is maybe 4.5 miles, I guess, from the creek. And now, after that sighting, I would constantly be outside. Like if I wasn't at work, I would be in the darkness, standing or sitting still for half hour, 45 minutes, sometimes an hour at a time, just listening, for anything to come around the house. Um, I didn't know if, you know, sometimes these things have a tendency of showing up, and that's the last thing I ever wanted. And I've talked about this extensively with my kids, not about this encounter, because that first one, like I I didn't even want to believe it. It just seemed so like almost dreamlike, very surreal, and it didn't. I mean, it stuck with me, but it didn't. I don't know how to describe it, but like I said, it felt like almost like a dream. And I actually that day after it left, I was like, okay, we need to get the hell out of here. And I dragged all my stuff back up the creek and got everything back to my vehicle. And unfortunately, sure enough, I wound up getting, the front end of this Honda Pilot just sunk into the sand. And after digging and digging for hours and hours, and it started around like, I don't know, it was close to noon when I had this encounter. And I didn't get that thing out of there until like 1 o'clock in the morning. And I had to have my wife come down there with the other SUV and yank it out. And for a good long time, I was embarrassed to even tell her I was stuck in the sand. And like I said, I had probably displaced, good, I don't know, 8 to 10 square feet of sand and dirt trying to get that front end, dug out. And I just get sunk even more in there and worrying about this thing showing up because it's only like 500 yards from where we had this encounter. And also that Rowlett Creek Greenway there, it's a trail. I've walked back there a bunch since then. Not before that though, but since then I have. And it's pretty popular. And I don't see how these things are able to feed themselves on small game like that. There's really not. I mean, we're in the middle of suburban, neighborhoods. I live about 30 miles from Dallas, and sure, it's a little bit out there. I'm right up next to a lake, but I just don't see how anything that size can have enough food out there for subsistence. It boggles my mind, and the fact that it showed itself to me like that's why I thought maybe it was like psychic magnetism. Um, because I was so obsessed with it that it's like, oh well, here we are, and that's why it felt like so much like a dream, like as if as I don't know, but Bella, she wouldn't forget. So where I buried Bella after she had passed was in the field where I'm sitting probably about 300 yards from where she was buried right now. I'm not at my house. I'm just a little bit down the road, closer to where my most recent experiences happened. And they're building these really big houses out here, like $500,000 homes on these like quarter-acre lots. Um, and they've got about 2 dozen of them in, but there's still a couple of blocks with nothing there. But they've got the roads paved and street lights and stuff, and it backs up to these pastures. And after I buried Bella, less than maybe a week goes by, and I'd take my other dogs, consistently out there every day. And well, when I went to where I laid her to rest, she was gone. She was taken from her resting area, her resting spot. And at first, you'd think that coyotes, and I've done my due diligence. I've looked all over the place. There's no, she wasn't dug up. There wasn't a bunch of dirt all, pushed to the side. There wasn't any paw prints or digging. And plus also coyotes, when they tend to scavenge on, you know, the body of something, they're pretty messy and they can kind of spread it out. And that didn't happen either. I didn't see any parts of her. It looked like something had reached into the dirt and pulled her out. And so almost all that dirt was still sitting in the hole. Just, you can tell that there was a depression there. And when I saw the depression, I started digging down into it, and she wasn't in there. And I think my son was with me at my son and my daughter was with me at the time, and we had looked all over the place around there. There's little game trails going every which direction, and I know we've got hogs out here too, but a hog wouldn't just pull a corpse out of the ground. And I was so hurt, so angry, and so driven to get back at what had taken her. And, to the point where I'd come out and every night, if on the nights I'm not working, I'd be out there with a gun in the complete quiet, trying to put myself out there as bait for something to come in, whether it be a coyote or a hog and not gonna lie, the thought had crossed my mind that maybe the Dogman, because what else can reach in with like hands and take something and walk off with it? But at that point, I was so angry, it didn't matter what it was. And I wanted to get my pound of flesh for taking her. And I still have yet to figure out what happened to her. With my other two dogs, we found like, goat skulls and a spine and like a calf jaw out here. And these developers, they purchased, I'm guessing, like all the pasture land that these cows were on, because they're just clearing all this trees and just taking all what last bit of wild lands we have left to put these houses on, and slowly pushing us out. And I was so obsessed with it that they said I still come out here every day, twice a day, earlier and closer to 8 or 9 around this time. And I'd be back out here at 3 o'clock in the morning, give or take, with the dogs, just letting them do their thing. I like my dogs to kind of run around and do their thing. And I'm not one to really walk around on leashes. But now for my most recent experiences, it happened right here in the same spot, not by the creek, but here where they're building these houses. And it happened July 12th at 1 a.m. I know that because I had taken pictures. The first one, I even called my daughter, and I was blown away. Now my phone, strangely, it was around like 33% when I had called my daughter, and I was trying to, I was telling her about it, and I told her, I was like, okay, well, I want to try and get some, video and get some pictures of it. And so we had hung up, and I was trying to take pictures. Now my flashlight, which was charged, and it has batteries in it, and the flashlight started flickering, going on and off, and I had to, constantly smack it for it to illuminate. And my phone, I saw that my phone was down to like 2% at the time, and how it went from 33% to 2%, I don't know, but I'm guessing maybe it has something to do with this. What I can't say conclusively was a Dogman, but what I saw was these big eyes that were staring at me. This thing was standing in a creek. It was behind some foliage. It was about 35 yards away from me in this creek area. And it was like a light gray color. And I can see the muzzle, the black nose tip. And it was kept on like peeking out from behind this. There's this small tree that's like right there. And there's, you can tell that it was obscured. And so the pictures on that one, and the I got 2 videos, like 47 seconds and 27 seconds. You can't see nothing. And So that's when I was like, okay. And my dogs were with me at the time. Now they didn't even know that this thing was there. They were kind of like, one of them, she's a black lab. She just rolling around on her back, just scratching her back in the middle of this street. And Sky, she was just chewing on her feet, not really paying much attention. And at that point, we had already had our walk. And so I backed up slowly, and we had gotten in the car to leave. And I drove to the end, which there's a little stop sign, which is maybe 250 yards from this spot. And there was this white Toyota Tundra had come down. Like I said, there's about 24 houses over here that are already built, but there's still plenty of spots where they have yet to build. And that's where I was coming from, where there wasn't any homes by this pasture. And this Toyota Tundra like slows down, like almost comes to a complete stop. And that's what drew my attention to the left of me. And to the left, there was this big, gigantic white dog canine creature. Had a really big head. It was laying down, but it was staring straight at me. I've got a pretty decent picture of it. Again, conclusively, can you say this was a canine or whatever? No, but you can make out the dark spots where the eyes would be and like where the ears are at and the tip of the nose. I've got pictures of the spot in the daylight, and that was maybe 70 feet, 60, 70 feet from my vehicle. And I just sat there and I was trying to take pictures of that, and which I got a couple of good ones, but again, my phone was at like 1%, so I had to jam the charger into it at the time to try and get what I could. And I just sat there like, I don't know, 5 minutes just looking at this thing. And it reminded me of, if you ever seen Game of Thrones and they have those dire wolves, it was like one of like a big white one. I think maybe that's Jon Snow or something. I'm not sure, but it was massive. It had a really big head, had a long body. From when I went back there the next day to see where its body length was, is the length of its body had been almost 7.5 feet, and it was curled up sort of, and but very strangely, like these things were just right there. And I'd been out here daily, multiple times a day for 3 years, and to see this, I mean, it was startling. And I was excited, and again, I mean, that's kind of creepy at the same time, and have these things staring at you. Now, nothing was aggressive. Didn't I would say I'm very, very fortunate, the fact that nothing that between these two encounters, that nothing came rushing at me. Like I couldn't imagine, like that's, to be out in the woods on some mountainside by yourself, or having these things tapping on your window, like that's terrifying. I I don't know what I'd do. I mean, I'd probably, people probably think I'm crazy. I'd probably just mag dump something in the face if I heard some tapping on the window. What good it do, I don't know. Um, but I've been fortunate in that sense, the fact that nothing has overtly tried to hurt me. But the fact that Bella was taken, though, that's one thing that I've been having a hard time getting over, and that's something I've just had to swallow, because I was so mad, so angry. I mean, I would have like an AR in my trunk. Um, Sometimes I'd walk around with it, sometimes I didn't. You know, one, I don't want to freak out all these new people that moving in over here. I don't really care about that. That's not even the issue. Just I, I knew that wasn't healthy behavior, and sometimes I can get like a dog on a bone. When I get a hold of something, I don't like to let go, and Bella go was hard enough, and then having to swallow the fact that she was taken. And I thought for the longest time that maybe this big black one that came from the creek area, the year and a half prior, thought maybe that had come and taken her for just, I mean, why, who knows? But we, why do they do the things that they do? And we really can't explain that. Dark sense of humor, because it growled at her and she didn't back down. I don't know. But having just to give up the like I haven't taken the guns out in a while. Every now and then I still will, but just in case, and I'll leave it in my car. Because there's still coyotes out here, and I did track a really really big hog. I can tell it had been like 450 pounds from the depression of its hoof. Um, but and then I saw these July 12th, and I told my wife, and I took her 2 days later back to that same spot to show her where it was at. And actually, that was where we set off fireworks July 4th, the same exact spot. Like I said, it backs up to this pasture, and when I was talking to her about it, I was facing towards her. My back was to the vegetation area, and she was facing, standing there looking at me from sidewalk. And she said that there's something. She started getting kind of scared. She saw something behind me, not directly right behind me, but like 30, maybe 20 yards, I guess, off from this tiny little trickle of water, this small, really small creek. And it was upright, and it was moving if you're looking at it from her view, from right to left. And I turned around and I looked. I didn't have my flashlight at the time. I couldn't find it. And yeah, I saw it was darker than everything else around it, and you can tell it was standing up. And eventually it passed behind some trees. And she's like not having it. She's like, okay, it's time to go. And as curious as I am, I like to push the envelope and chase things and do stupid stuff. I went ahead and decided not to test it, and we got in the car and went home. And yeah, so these things, they haven't been easy. I still come out every single night. I take my dogs out here every night. As soon as I get off of the phone here, I'm gonna go back home and get my dogs, make sure they're fed, and come out here and go for like a good hour walk. Tonight, I'm gonna walk back up across this little creek area and up into that field and go to where Bella's resting spot was. We won't be around here for much longer, unfortunately. We own our double wide. We have evicted, so I have to leave.
Oh no, you're breaking up again. Can you hear me, Patrick? You're breaking up again. Let's see how you sound now.
How about now, Vic?
Yeah, it sounds better. Can you go back and retell us what you were just starting into telling us about?
Sure. I was saying that after we get off the phone here, I'm going to go home, make sure my dogs are fed, and we're going to come back out here. And I want to go across the creek area over there into this field, and probably just maybe go pay respects to Bella's resting spot. Now, I know she's not there anymore, but just we won't be around here for very much longer, unfortunately. I've loved Wiley. Been here for about 15 years. We have a mortgage on a decent double wide home, but due to unfortunate circumstances, we being evicted, I went to the court hearing. The judge wouldn't even let me speak, and he terrified my wife so much that she's so intimidated she didn't even know what to say. He also dismissed our motion to continue, which basically gives you a little more time to get legal counsel. And it seems like they're fast tracking getting us out of there. So we're actually in the midst of packing a bunch of stuff up and having to figure out where we're going to go. We're going to take our dogs and my kids. And, things have not been easy, amongst, having to deal with all these things. And honestly, it feels like the Dogman experience was easier to deal with than having to uproot our lives again and start from scratch. But it looks like they're not going to give us any choice, and they don't want to. And I couldn't come up with $2,000 in a week, as much as I tried selling my guns, and it doesn't look like it's going to happen. So I think I'm gonna go. We're probably gonna be gone. We're gonna have I think the last day before they get the writ of possession is gonna be Tuesday. So I think tonight we're gonna go up there and go visit Bella's. Well, the place where I laid her to rest. I wouldn't say her grave anymore because she's not there, but probably just go up there one last time before we're having to leave this place. And that's about it, Vic. I don't know what else to talk about, but sometimes, like I said, life can be difficult for a lot of us, and I've been fortunate with the Dogman encounters that I've had. They weren't threatening and doing all that crazy stuff, thank God, but they definitely come out of nowhere for some reason. And I know you've said before, with the amount of times that we go out there in the woods, and I like to go hiking with my dogs. I used to hike all over the place when I was a kid, in upstate New York, up the mountains. Just me and my little brother. And these things could be all around us. I don't know if it has to do with our state of mind, on whether or not if they can read our intentions, on whether or not they choose to show themselves. And sometimes it seems to be an opportunity for them to looking for a quick meal or something, or just to terrify someone. I mean, again, we don't know why they do what they do, but sometimes life can be a little bit more difficult, even going through that, at least for me anyways. But I mean, what else can you do? Just get back to the grindstone and just keep on just trying to make your way. And that's about it, Vic.
Well, first of all, I'm so sorry to hear about Bella passing. It's never easy, but please remember it was Bella's body that was taken out of that grave. It wasn't Bella. Bella's in a different place now, a place where she doesn't have to worry about all the problems that we do here on Earth. We're left behind. But like in our conversation that we had the first time we spoke, please remember everything I told you about that whole situation and everything. And I hope that helps. And number two, like I told you in that conversation also, I'm so sorry to hear about your housing situation there. From how you described what's going on, it sounds like you think Sunday. Did you say Sunday is when you think you're going to be evicted, or did you say Tuesday?
No, I think. Well, we've already went to the court. I think Tuesday is the we did filed an appeal, and they give you 6 days to come up with so now they want a full month's rent to go to the court. And like, I didn't have the money, the $2,000 for the appeal bond, and so they granted kind of like $167 to pay to the court. So if whoever loses or wins the appeal, they get that $667, which would be like a full month's rent. And we have until Tuesday to come up with that. But I haven't been able to come up with that total amount, and which means the judge is probably likely just gonna not even bother even looking at the appeal, that they're gonna toss it out, and they're gonna award the management company the writ of possession, which is gonna be, I don't know the rules. When you have a mortgage on a home and you're being evicted from the land beneath you, I don't know if there's a certain amount of time you have to figure out, but I know, pretty sure it's like something like 30 days or something like that to move your house. And it being a double wide, I mean, one, you'd have to have a land for it to go to, and several $1,000s to move it to said land. And if I had money to move it, I would have just stay where we're at without having to uproot everything. But unfortunately, I wasn't able to come up with that money. So
Unfortunately, you're starting to break up
yeah, I
again,
think
but I think we're able to make out enough. You said that if you had 600 and how much dollars before Tuesday, you think you would be able to stay this month?
Well, no, not to stay. That's just for them to look over the appeal. The appeal that we put in after you go to eviction court, you have to put in a whole month's rent to the appeal court for the judge to look over the appeal. In order to have a perfect appeal, you have to put in a full month's worth of rent for this month. which is $667. But we also have a mortgage and all that stuff too. But yeah, no. So in order just for them to look at the appeal and consider it, we'd have to pay $667, and that's just, and we can still lose it at that point too. But you know, we tried.
Wow.
So we've got till Tuesday.
If you were able to get past that hurdle and pay for the appeal to actually go through, what do you think of the odds that next month, the month after that, you'd be able to retain your property?
Well, if we were granted the appeal, then and like we finally got a hold of some legal counsel. This an eviction advocacy center, which is a team of lawyers that try and help people in that position. And it turns out 90% of eviction cases where the tenants have a lawyer, they win their case. And in cases where they don't, almost every case where people don't have a lawyer, they lose. But if we were given the appeal, there might be an opportunity for them to, because the whole basis of our defense was the fact that the proper notification to us about the eviction, which we didn't get, but they claimed they did, and we never got anything. And the fact that the judge dismissed our motion to continue to give us more time to find legal counsel, and he dismissed that, and he wouldn't allow us to have more time to find someone, to learn, at least court procedures. Like they hold you to these procedures to where like you have to be your own lawyer and you have to conduct yourself as such, meaning like you have to say certain things and in order to even be heard. And I looked up, I studied as much as I could, knowing that we didn't have time for counsel. So I thought I was our best shot. And the judge silenced me and said I'd be held in contempt if I continued to try and speak. So he put it on my wife, and she was, like I said, so intimidated she didn't even know what to say and how to question the management, and the judge really basically just kind of like just shackled me and just pushed it on through and awarded the eviction to the management and said, we've got time to appeal and we have to pay X amount of money for the appeal. And the appeal just gives us an opportunity for someone for them to look over and say whether or not like if we got a fair shot or if we're given an opportunity for a jury. So what's the probability? I don't know. I mean, it's better than what we have now, but and if we can get a lawyer to advocate for us on our behalf, then things are looking a whole lot better than what they were. But if I had the money just to pay them off to the management company, that's where I would have done it, but we weren't given enough time to do so.
I'm going to put this as eloquently as possible. That judge sounds like a piece of crap to me. And if there
Oh
ever
yeah.
was a judge who suffers from black robe disease, that judge would definitely be it, because that's just ridiculous how he's been acting, how he's been treating you. That is just ridiculous. If I were to create a GoFundMe page for you tonight before I went to bed, so we could try to raise $700 for you so you could push through that appeal, how would that sound? Would that be favorable to you?
That I wouldn't even begin. I wouldn't even know. I'd be to tears, Vic. That and I'd be totally eternally grateful. I don't want to make my burden anyone else's problem either. But I appreciate that, Vic. That's very generous of you.
Well, it's the least I can do. If I'm in a position to be able to help someone in need, then no, it's my duty to do that. And I just feel so lucky, so blessed to be in a position to be able to help. Now, I can't guarantee that we'd be able to raise that 700 before in such short time before Tuesday, but the least I can do is to create that GoFundMe page so we can try. We can do the best we can to meet that goal. I mean, that judge, he's put you in a tight spot that you never should have been put into. And for him to act all high and mighty the way he is, and the way so many judges do, unfortunately, that's just deplorable. Yeah, you shouldn't be subject to treatment like that. It really is a shame. It's awful and says everything that you need to know about a ridiculous judicial system. What a
Yeah,
joke. But like I said, rest assured, before I go to bed tonight, I'll have that and I'll need to work with you to get some pertinent information from you to create that GoFundMe page. But
for
yeah,
sure.
before I go to bed tonight, and it's been a long day, but before I go to bed tonight, I will create that GoFundMe page. So anyone listening who wants to be able to help Patrick meet that goal of $700 so he can push that appeal through, yeah, if you go to dogmanencounters.com on the homepage, right at the top, you're going to find a link that I'm going to post for that GoFundMe page. And also check the description for tonight's show. After I've created that GoFundMe page, before I go to bed, I'll be sure to post that link for the GoFundMe in the description for tonight's show also. That'll make it really easy for you to find it if you want to help contribute to help Patrick through this mess. What a mess.
I appreciate that very much, Vic. The way they made this new law that they passed, they've made it much more difficult and much easier for landlords to get people out of the house and to keep from extending their time there. And it's difficult it's not like we're being evicted from an apartment. We have a mortgage on this house, and with the amount of time that they'll give us, which from what I've looked at, there won't be enough time to come up enough money to find a land, and to hire a company to ship my house. They'll have to take it literally apart in two pieces and haul it off, which is costs thousands and thousands of dollars. And I really don't know what my options are at this point, but hopefully we can get a hold of I've gotten some emails back from the advocacy center. I just haven't spoken to them yet, but hopefully we can put our rally caps on and come through. But one thing I always say, and I remind my kids, and and a lot of things I've gone through in my life that have been tough, I've always said that no matter what happens, we'll be okay. So that goes for everyone else out there too. Just always remember that no matter what happens, you'll be all right.
I like the way you think. And you're right. Yeah, you will be all right. You really will. I think I've got this feeling. I think we're going to be able to do it. I think we will be able to have that $700 to you by Tuesday. Now, please make sure you're available. I'm probably going to need to send several text messages to you tonight. It might be kind of late too, as I'm going through the process of setting it up. There are things I have to do before I can start working on that GoFundMe page tonight. But yeah, please do remain available for those text messages so I can get it totally ready to go and up and running tonight. So
Yeah, I'll be up. I still have my middle of the night walk with my dogs I got to do, so I'll be up for some time.
okay, good. That's really good. Well, Patrick, it is a little over an hour in. I've got tons of questions to ask, and I know the listeners in the live chat, they've got tons of questions they want me to ask you too. So I think here is where we're going to call it quits for tonight's show. Just making sure, are you still up for coming back for a part two so you can answer all these questions? And of course, we can talk about that goal, that $700 goal as well.
Certainly, of course. I'll even if again I'm not gonna hold my breath, but even regardless of that, I'll be back. But I'll definitely I'll be back, Vic, for sure.
Well, that's great. Yeah, that's really good. Well, yeah, I'll just do that. I will do the things I just mentioned. And yeah, as long as you're okay with coming back for that part two, I'll get with you to schedule that follow up show. I don't know when it's going to be right now, but we'll put our heads together and get that all hashed out. But yeah, in the meantime, everyone listening, yeah, if you can help to contribute to this cause to help Patrick out, it would be most appreciated. Like I said, you'll be able to find a link to that GoFundMe page in the description for tonight's show after I create it late tonight. And also, I'll post a link for it on dogmenencounters.com, right on the homepage, right near the top. So, yeah, I can't thank you enough for listening. I can't thank you enough for any help you can give Patrick. We really do appreciate it. We really do. But having said that, before we get out of here, Patrick, do you have any closing comments you want to put out there for us?
Well, one, I would say to anyone who says that they really, really want to see a dog man and they kind of get obsessed over it, sometimes and it's not. It's really not something you really wanted. You find out that you shouldn't have been wishing for that. So be careful what you wish for. And number two, just remember, no matter how hard life kicks you when you're down, we still got to get back up. And no matter what,
You're cutting out
you'll
again
be
there,
okay.
Patrick. Can you hear me? You were
Yeah, I can
breaking
hear you
up there
fine.
really. Okay, good. Yeah, you were breaking up there really bad when you started to share that second point. Can you share it with us again?
Sure. I was saying that no matter how hard life may kick you when you're down, and how difficult things seem, and all the pressures and responsibilities we have on our shoulders, that no matter what, just remember that you'll be okay, and just never give up, and just that's about it.
Very wise words. Very wise words. Like I told you, I really do love the way you think. And know that, yeah, we'll be working behind the scenes to get that GoFundMe up and ready to go. And like I said, everyone listening, thanks as always so much for listening and any support you can give Patrick to help him out of a very tight spot that he really shouldn't have to deal with. But if you've had a Dogman encounter that you need help with, or if you'd like to be a guest on the show to come on and share that experience with the listeners, please go to dogmanencounters.com, submit a report. And if you do that, then I'll contact you to schedule a phone consultation and we'll take it from there. But having said that, thanks again so much for coming on, Patrick. And like I said, we'll put our heads together to schedule that follow-up show.
Appreciate it, Vic.
Oh, you're welcome. Thanks again so much, and I'll talk to you tonight.
Yep. Have a good night.
Thanks. Like I said, everyone, thanks again so much, and please keep an eye out for those links for the GoFundMe page. But hope you have a great weekend, and we'll talk to you next week.